Hey, it's Benjie Cole, son of Al Cole from CBS Radio and host of People of Distinction, the talk that gives an in-depth view of some of the most dynamic, intelligent, and successful people on the planet. Run to our website, peopleofdistinction.org for more info, or you can always email me directly at benji@alcoleenterprises.com. And on the line with us today, we have Clem Suder. We're going to be discussing his amazing book, Come and See. Now, it's available for purchase through Amazon, Barnes & Noble, pretty much wherever books are sold. But people, if you want to gather everything that Clem has in store, well, do yourself a favor and head directly to his personal site. And that's The Right Path, ClemSuderBooks.com. There you'll find more information on Clem himself, more information on this fantastic book, Come and See. But get this, he's also written 2 other books that you're going to want to get your hands on. One is called Finding Heaven Now. The other, A Place for You, The End of Days. All of which are available, as I mentioned, Amazon, Barnes & Noble, The Right Path, ClemSuderBooks.com. Head on over there today and get lost in everything that he has in store. And before we go any further, I do want to quickly take this opportunity and point out that Clem was brought to our network, People of Distinction, today by one of the best advertising firms in the business. And of course, you already know I'm talking about Media Literary Excellence. So listen to me. If you're a writer out there, you have a work of art that you've created, but you need help moving it, listen, give yourself the best gift you could possibly give and contact Media Literary Excellence. People, they are specialists in this, okay? This is what they do on a day-to-day basis, and they're waiting by to assist you. So head on over to MediaLiteraryExcellence.com today and gather all of the ways that they're going to help you maximize your creative endeavors. And listen, it is a wonderful pleasure, okay? An absolute delight to have Clem here on the line. There are so many gems that are going to be found within those pages. By the time we're done here today, like I said, you're going to run and purchase your copies because you're going to understand how valuable of an educational resource this book is. And listen, we're going to cover some gems here today too, so make sure you have your notebooks ready because Clem is about to take us back to the classroom. All right, sit back, strap in, and get ready for a wonderful ride. Clem, first and foremost, welcome to People of Distinction, and thank you very much for being a guest. How you doing today, sir?
I'm doing good, Benji. How are you?
I am fantastic, my friend, better than I deserve, and thank you very much for asking. I appreciate it. You know, Clem, I meant what I said in my opening. You know, I think what you're doing here is special, and I think what you're doing here has a lot of value. So thank you for being a guest, and listen, I'm not going to make my listening audience wait anymore. Let's jump right in. I often like to figure out people's background before we go into the actual book itself, but because this is a memoir, we're going to cover the book and your background. So let's jump right in here. Come and See. Tell us a little bit more about your novel, Clem.
Basically, it's based on a spiritual journey that I took. Mm-hmm. What happened was I'm 71 years old, disabled, because I had a traumatic brain injury in '05.
Oh, wow.
And I was trying to find out who I was. And I literally call those first 7 years of being a zombie. I couldn't seem to generate cognitive thinking. If you told me something to do, I could do it, but it wasn't something where I would institute or I would initiate the thought. And I was like lost in this world. And so I was praying a lot about it because I didn't understand it. My memory at the time was terrible, and it's still not good. With a little help, I can remember what I did yesterday, but I ended up forcing myself, or I got forced to retire because I was disabled. I couldn't remember stuff. Mm-hmm. But anyway, 7 years I lived in that state, and finally I'd read a book, or I was reading the Bible, and I think I saw somewhere in it where Jesus was facing the Sanhedrin, and they asked him by whose authority he did what he did. Now, I've been asking God to help me to understand, and what he said next, I really thought I would know it, but I didn't. Jesus told them, I require mercy. I do not require sacrifice. If you knew the difference, you would understand where my authority comes from. You would know God. Well, that hit me like a ton of bricks. I needed to find the answer to that because I realized I just didn't quite understand it properly. And so I asked him to show me what it means. Well, that's when the journey happened. And basically it was an amazing set of circumstances.
Yeah.
In the book we're talking about, Come and See, I write more about the journey. I did 2 other books that are basically designed for more specific answers. Each one has a targeted audience, I guess you'd call it, because it's answers to different troubles and different things that you're facing in life. The total journey was amazing because it explains everything, why things are the way they are, why they were intended even to be the way they are. Trying to understand things beyond what we can really normally think about or I guess understand. But it was an amazing journey. And in the middle of this journey, basically I'd gone back in time to heaven itself. I was in heaven. I knew what it was like. It was amazing. It's not like what people think. And when I realized that, I wanted to talk to God. Well, I got to talk to him. And it's an amazing experience. More than you could possibly understand because, when we talk about talking, we think about we heard it. With him, you feel everything. I mean, he makes everything clear in a way that I wish I could find the right way to do that for other people because that gift is unbelievable. Like I said, I couldn't remember what I did yesterday, but I can remember this journey 7 years later. It was an amazing journey.
Absolutely. Listen, Clem, I got to jump in here, man. I'm at the edge of my seat. You can't drop something like that and not have me follow up. Now, you talked about how you experienced heaven and was able to talk to God. Now, that's not a saying that we hear all the time. I mean, I don't know if I've ever spoken to someone that has expressed that they've directly experienced heaven. I'd love to go into a couple of questions here pertaining to that. First and foremost, how did that happen? And B, can you share a little bit of what that experience was like?
Like I said, I don't think I was asking him for guidance, and I guess this is his way of giving it to me, I guess. It was beyond me because I certainly didn't think I deserved it. But at any rate, on the journey back, I was just sketches of little things I saw, like different atrocities that people did to other people back in time. And the next thing I know, I was in heaven. Now, heaven, to me, it was an amazing experience because it was just like a little English village. It really was. Everything was neat and orderly, and on all the stuff backward, going back in time, no one could recognize me. No one could see me, but I could see them. But this place, I could talk to them. And what I found was all they cared about was helping each other. That's all they wanted to do. If there was a problem, they wanted to overcome it. And I was amazed because they could talk to me. So I got to talking to one of the inhabitants, and I was, of course, I caught it back, and I said, "You know me?" And he said, "Yeah, you've always been here." And that's when I thought, whoa, that's a little bit reaching. So then I got to thinking, well, if I'm in heaven, then I got to be able to talk to God. Next thing I know, I'm in this other place, and it looked like the universe was painted on the floor. in front of me. And all of a sudden, I start seeing all kinds of stuff back in history, and on the trip back there, it's all like living in front of me. And then I see basically answers to the questions that I had. What is mercy? Why is it different? Where did we go wrong? I mean, how wrong could we get? And all of this, I was beginning to see things, like this vision of different things that went through everything. Why creation was done, what it was for, why we're here, what we're supposed to do with it, why what I saw in heaven was so attainable and yet so impossible for people here to understand. Mm-hmm. It was amazing. And then I got the bombshell, which was tell them what you see. And I was like, whoa, excuse me. I think you need somebody like a religious leader or a politician or somebody who's really popular. You don't need somebody who had a brain injury from Georgia. But he said, tell them what you see. And you don't argue with God. If he tells you to do something, you pretty much figure, okay, I'm going to have to do it.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I was pretty scared. I mean, because, like I pointed out to him, you know, everybody you send down here with a message like this, they kill. I'm not really anxious to get killed. But he said, tell them what you see. And I said, okay. But for 7 years afterwards, I was still trying to deal with the fear that I had, so I didn't write anything. Eventually, though, it kept coming back. And I kept getting that driving feeling that I have to do it. So I finally sat down and I started writing. Mm-hmm. Basically because I thought things were about to get really out of hand. And I thought people needed to be able to have a little bit of the peace that I was able to have. And part of that, if you think about what Jesus went through, and you got to imagine yourself, you know you're going to get crucified, but you don't cuss nobody out. You don't condemn nobody. You go to the cross without complaint. Can you imagine the mental place that he was able to go to be able to withstand that and not curse people out? It was an amazing experience to find that place. Now, that's the first book I was talking about. A Place for You, The End of Days. The end of days means the end of days as you know them. Not that the days are going to end, just as you know them are going to end. So you have to have a new point of view in order to find the place Jesus showed us, that he prepared for us, that we could go so we could face whatever comes without fear, without worry, with confidence. Mm-hmm. And that's what I wrote about in the first book. The second book was more for people in their everyday life. Why? How can you find this kind of assuredness, this kind of faith? You know, we talk about faith the size of a mustard seed. And there's so many things that the churches teach. And I'm not big on churches. I'm not a particularly religious person. I'm very spiritual. But I've been to a few churches in my days, a couple thousand of them. But I still trust. And I understand because I had the awe of being able to live through this. And better yet, I could actually remember it, which is really amazing. But when it was all said and done, and I ended up right back where I started, laying on my bed, looking up at the ceiling in the afternoon, and realizing what had just happened, it was an amazing feeling. But like I said, it was pretty well filled with fear, because I thought, if I tell people this, and they understand that while they have power, that power is for themselves only, it's not over other people, that the whole point of mercy is that you honor what other people seek for themselves. And that's what they're going to get. Not what they want necessarily, but what they seek. So if they seek to destroy others, they're going to be destroyed. If they seek to be apart from others, then they'll be apart. And I think that was an amazing learning experience. There were only a couple of things that I found everything kind of pivoted on. One of them was the fact of what the difference is between mercy and sacrifice. Well, Jesus said it right when he said, if you knew the difference, you would know where my authority comes from. Because when you know the difference, you know God. But that's the only way you can figure that one out. And it's not necessarily for Christians or for Jews or for Muslims or for any particular religion. Because God made men. He didn't make religions. Religions are what men made. And it's all a question of who you're giving authority to tell you what you should feel and why you should feel about anything. You know, we go through life and we hear about people complaining about the me way things are going today. People are talking about me. But the bottom line is, the truth is, the only person you have control over is you. But when they say me, they say they want to have power over everybody else. Mm-hmm. And that's just not the way it works. One of the hardest things to understand was that mercy. What does it mean? I mean, to honor somebody else's thoughts above your own, to give them what they believe or what they're working for. And that's what Jesus wanted for himself, because he was working for the Father. He wasn't exercising his will. He never did. He exercised the Father's will. Well, we turned around and we heard what he said, and we said he's making himself a separate God or God himself. No, he's saying I'm part of God, just like everything he created is part of him. And that's why you can't understand what he is, because he's greater than anything you could imagine. But his will is what I want to serve. His will is my will. We are one. Not that he didn't have his own will. He did. When he was on the cross, dying, he looked up and he said, Father, why have you abandoned me? Why have you forsaken me? That was the only time he exercised his own will. Other than that, he always deferred to his Father's will. And I tell you that because you all have a will. But can you have the same kind of will he did that gives God the authority over everything? And to understand the reason you're here is to make everything greater, to make your life greater. That's what God wants for you. All you got to do is make it better for yourself and for each other. Don't judge each other because you don't know why they feel the way they do. All they know is they feel for whatever reason. And all I'm suggesting in these books is for you to understand what and why if you will do that, you can make this place a lot more like heaven than people could ever even believe possible. It's one of the things that I really feel I had to tell people. And I understood that it would create a lot of discontent in a lot of circles because it's not exactly what everybody says and it's not what they want to think. The difference is everything I talk about came directly out of Jesus' mouth. I say what he said, not what people say about him. And that's the kind of stuff that I talk about. And the way I look at it, it is all the truth. You can prove it to yourself. Read it, understand it, try it for yourself. You're going to find it's true. It's all true. And if one part's true, all of it can be true. Because it all serves the same purpose.
Absolutely. Clem, I'm gonna jump in here quickly, man, because I'm loving what you're saying. And I know my listening audience is as well. So people, we're going to start to close out here now. But you already know Amazon, Barnes & Noble, The Right Path, ClemSuderBooks.com are the places you have to go. This is a journey you need to embark upon. And can I just say, imagine the world that we would live in if more people operated from this perspective and more people started to view the world and view their relationship with God in the same way. My goodness, this would be magical. Clem, as we close out here, last question, and really a curiosity for myself here with this, because listen, we've talked about so much today, and thank you very much. We know about yourself, your background. We know about this book. You touched up on one of your others. I'm curious here, what would you say was a highlight for you in this writing journey? Or if not a highlight, maybe something that surprised you that you weren't anticipating before you began on it?
Well, the whole thing surprised me because I would have never thought like I told them, I think you need somebody else. You need like a religious leader or a political leader or somebody, not some brain-injured old man from Georgia. But he chose me, so that's the way it works. Now, the one thing I was surprised about was you'd think it would be so complicated, but it's really not. And people ask me why I'm doing what I'm doing. One of the interesting things, I think, was the questionnaire that y'all sent me about what I do. And I said, what do you want to do with these books? Personally, I want to change the world, one person at a time. I want them to understand what he showed me, because it can change their world. And as they change their worlds, they will begin to change the world of the society they created and the churches that they created. And they will begin to understand and to treat each other better. The whole purpose of creation is is always greater. And that's all he wants for us, is to be greater. And he gives us everything we need to do that. But what is greater to you? Is it money? Is it the view of other people? Is it happiness? Is it success? What do you consider greater for you? Because that's what drives what you do. And I suggest to you that if you want any success in any of it, help others, and that'll help you more. But I'm not one of these people that tell you give, and just keep giving and be happy that you're giving. No. Give for the purpose of helping other people. Don't give to somebody who's not helping other people. Help other people. The whole point of helping is to have the other person put something into it. Don't do for them, because that'll never help anyone.
There you have it.
That's the kind of stuff I talk about.
Listen, Clem, I'm right there with you, man. I love this. People, listen, you know what you got to do. I don't need to say it again. You know where to go. It's been mentioned. Come and See was the book we talked about today. Also check out his other 2 books, Finding Heaven Now, and lastly, A Place for You, The End of Days by Clem Suder. Just get lost in all of the valuable resources that he's put out for you, because this is something you're going to want to add to your shelf. And while you're at it, get it as a gift for someone else to add to theirs. You can thank me later. Clem, this has been a true pleasure, an absolute delight. Thank you once again for being a guest on People of Distinction.
It has been a pleasure.